Yes, and welcome to our 2 o'clock live event here from Thixondale. And as I said before, we're going to talk to you about wildlife outside, some work we do with rehab and releasing birds, and also the paintings I do. So this is my gallery. I built this gallery in 2001 from a sort of fairly dilapidated farmyard. So this is the painting I'm going to talk about today, and this is a really special bird. This peregrine was actually born on Chichester Cathedral, and that's 208 miles away from Hull, where she now nests, and she's been nesting there for several years. And I've been lucky enough to have the opportunity to build a hide there and follow this bird. And unfortunately, with lockdown, we haven't been able to go this year, so we've missed this year, but we have had live cameras, so we've watched her raising her young this year from a distance. But when I have a hide there, I'm within 15 metres, and to film peregrines at the nest in the UK here, we've got to have a Schedule 1 licence, and that's quite important that we know what we're doing with these birds. But these birds here, they're on a very busy industrial site, so they're literally almost bomb-proof. You know, they're so used to things happening. You can actually be just a short distance away, and the hide isn't always necessary. So we've got Pete framing in the background. Do you want to just tell Pete to... Yeah. He's firing pins into the frames as we speak, so we'll just get him to stop just in case you can hear that. That was Will going to tell Pete to stop firing his pins into the frames. So, so this bird is a very special bird, been following for years, and what I wanted to capture in this painting is this incredible backdrop, all the industrial landscape. And we've got the estuary of the River Humber in the background here, and then just faded out the tall structures of the Saltend Chemical Plant. And this is 350 acres of steel, steam and concrete. It's quite an incredible place that these birds actually chose to nest there. They were nesting in a column of one of these columns, and they had a lot of problems with condensation. And some people that were working there took it upon themselves to build them a Desres nest box and actually mount it within another company's building. And then that gave me the incredible opportunity to then be able to film and photograph them at really close quarters. And sometimes I'm literally at the nest, and I'm within 2 feet of this female peregrine behind a screen, so I'm just looking down the lens, able to film this bird. So I'll just show you a bit of a video of the process of the painting and the actual site. It's quite an astonishing place. It's just amazing. It's 350 acres of steam, steel and concrete, and this is home to a pair of peregrines. yes, that just shows you that site. It's an incredible place. And then this is the painting, which is just, you know, it's stunning. It's an oil painting. You can see me hanging it there in the gallery. So, you know, I absolutely love this bird, and the male there as well. He's equally as special, and I've painted them both many, many times. So yeah, so this is the painting process basically, and I wish I could paint this fast. So I'm just putting basic colours down, and this isn't too thick at this stage, so I want it to sort of dry, but I'm working this oil painting, it's wet right the way through, so I'm able to move it around still. I'm using a roller there, so I'm getting it on really fine. And then I'm actually now starting to mark out all these towers on here, and you know, just love, you know, using a big brush as possible always. I'm not tickling around with a little brush on this painting, just marking out all of the structure. And then what I do then is actually just to create a little bit of haze and distance. I'll then start using, after this is put in, I'll start then using an airbrush just to soften it, and then the Peregrine goes on. So the background's complete before I attempt putting the Peregrine on, because if I paint the Peregrine and then do the background, it just literally looks like I've painted around it. So sometimes I will do it to a certain extent, but I have to paint right into the subject. So I could do it another way where I leave a space here. But that's the painting then hanging in the gallery, and the original is now sold, so this is just a print out of it. But this weekend, maybe later today I think we've produced a video on the gallery, so I'll show you around this gallery, because I've shown people outside so much and the wildlife, and we've had people asking us here, well, what does the gallery look like? What does it look like inside? So yeah, we've obviously been in lockdown at the moment, so we've actually now produced a guided tour throughout the gallery and up into my studio, so you can see all these different areas where I hang my paintings and actually then work up in the studio. So if there's any more questions, I shall take them from Will, who's just stood off camera.
So we just wait for Sam will pass us on any questions.
I think I've got some on the sheet there, haven't I?
We have got a few here.
Yes.
So the first one we have comes from Sue Nicholson on Facebook, which is, if you could be any animal, what would you be?
Oh.
And why?
Oh, today I think I'd be a peregrine falcon, I think. Fastest bird in the world. I mean, to be able to fly when you see them, I'm up on these huge stacks of towers of concrete and steel, and I'm watching the peregrines, and they just come by and they're just barely moving a feather, but they're managing to cruise by you at such speed. So yeah, I'd be a peregrine today, I think.
So Weaselbox on YouTube asks, what inspires you to paint a specific creature?
Ooh. Yeah, so when I'm painting a particular creature, I often know the creature. So sometimes I'm just out and about filming wildlife, so I might see hares on the field, and I don't know that individual hare sometimes. But a lot of these paintings in this gallery, I actually know them as individuals. I've followed them for long periods of time, with the owls, the badgers, the peregrines. So that makes it a little bit more special than to paint them.
The next question comes from Doug the Dragon on YouTube, asking any news on Barney.
Yes, so Barney, I'm afraid there's no news on Barney. We haven't seen Barney. So yeah, it's quite sad for us all here at the gallery and the people that have followed his adventures over the summer. But we always cross our fingers and hope he'll be back. But we're not short of owls in the valley, so we will have other owls that will come in and nest. But it is, you know, you're so easy to work with, and he knew me, and I could work with him with the cameras and set things up. He would actually watch for me and things. So he was a lovely owl to work with. So yeah, so we'll be sadly missed if he's definitely gone.
So coming back to the peregrine, we've got Hughes has asked on YouTube, is it dangerous to nest in a chemical plant?
It can be dangerous to nest in a get my words out, a chemical park. So this bird has nested there, I'm trying to remember, she's been there years and years. So she's absolutely fine, and the male bird has nested with her for several years, and they've been absolutely fine. But there is dangers there. There's open big vats of liquid in different areas, and we have lost the odd, well, definitely one young peregrine in there. And then they're eating a lot of pigeons that are, eating all the seed and grain on this particular part of the chemical park. And the pigeons then carry Frown's disease, so it's not like a danger that's an obvious danger, but it's a danger through disease. Pigeons carry a lot of disease, and we've lost some peregrine chicks through Frown's disease, which is a respiratory disease which is carried by the pigeons.
So the next question comes from Sue Ringle on YouTube, asking how long to paint this peregrine.
This peregrine, it'll be about a couple of weeks work in this one. For the size of the picture, it's not taking me that long. Sometimes some of the really small paintings can get very intense and detailed, but this painting went really well. Yeah.
Good.
It's a bit like how long's a bit of string. A little tiny painting this big can take me longer than this one, this sort of size sometimes.
So Miss M on YouTube asks how many prints are made from paintings?
So a lot of the prints in here are a limited edition of 850, so that's fairly an industry standard in this country.
So Kristen Dooley on YouTube is asking, does the placement of species in the painting say something about the species? So obviously it's kind of a question about the composition of the paintings.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Yeah, so there's some people will ask me why they painted it here. And it's to do with sort of negative space, and the negative space is this industrial backdrop with a little hint of the Humber estuary in the background. So yeah, I mean, it's important. Sometimes it's just a portrait of an animal, but it's important to try and include a little bit of the landscape and actually place it in a sort of pleasing way.
Narelle D on YouTube is asking, what months do peregrines breed in the UK?
So this is what we would class as a sort of urban peregrine, but they're quite unusual. They're sort of prey items because they've got the Humber estuary here. And Sperm Point's out there, and anyone in the UK will know Sperm Point is a very famous migration route for birds. So there is sort of theories that birds follow these river systems and things. So this is the Humber River. So they will catch really unusual prey. And what is that actual question? Am I diversifying?
A little bit. When do they breed?
Oh, when do they breed? Yeah, so when they actually breed, because it's an urban peregrine, they can actually breed as early as February, but typically we're looking at April for peregrines to nest, but these have laid in February before, so it's all to do with the food source. Are they well enough and fat enough and healthy enough to breed? And that's the same with all species, so their breeding pattern out in the wilds and cliffs and the moors is April. When they're urbanised, semi-urbanised, they can breed it quite early.
So we have another question. Are kestrels and peregrines closely related?
Yes, yeah, both falcons, yeah. So they're both falcons. They have this beak with a little tooth on it here. So they're both falcons, yeah, so they're closely related.
And we have one more question, which may actually link quite nicely to what we're going to be doing on Monday, which is, do stoats have an odour? And that's from Sherry Webber on YouTube.
Yes, they do have an odour. Has anyone kept ferrets out there? So they have a musky smell to them, and stoats and weasels both smell very much like ferrets. So if anyone's ever kept ferrets or knows someone with ferrets, it's a similar sort of smell to them. And when they do get frightened, they can emit an awful smell, almost like a skunk, that it emits that from its back end. And that really smells when you get that on you. So they do smell.
So Sherry has also asked another question, which is quite relevant to this. Are there many peregrines in the UK?
Yes, there are many peregrines in the UK, and especially now in urban areas. So they're doing very well in certain areas. So we've gone from a point like in the 70s and 80s, really, really low numbers in my early stages of my life, and now we're peaking back up where peregrines are recolonising areas they used to be. They're still persecuted for different reasons. Pigeon fanciers can persecute them, and other places on moors and things. But in general, they're doing fairly well.
I think that's all the questions we'll take today.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll be back on Monday. And what's our plan on Monday, Will?
We're going to be doing stoat and weasel questions, and also an update on our rescued weasel, Ron.
Yeah. So stoats and weasels, if you have any questions about stoats and weasels, I'll talk you through the difference between stoats and weasels, give you a little update on Ron, and then that's it. So we'll see you on Monday, 2 o'clock.